Hello, everyone. We are from IIM Shillong, and we come here today to tell you about our journey for the GDPI and WAT process and tell you what tips we can give from our sides. Before going ahead, we'd like to start with the introductions. So I'll go ahead. My name is Adarsh Pradar, and I come from Ranchi, Jharkhand. I've graduated as a computer science engineer from KIIT University in 2019. After that, I've worked as a computer science engineer in the field of data science and application development. And then I joined IIM Shillong for my MBA. Thank you.
Hello all, I'm Ashwati Ramesh. I did my undergraduate in economics. I'm from Kozhikode, Kerala, and I'll be joining ITC for my summer internship.
Hello guys, so this is Pranay here. I am from Visakhapatnam and I have done my graduation in Doctor of Pharmacy from Andhra University, Visakhapatnam. I'll be joining Bain Capability Network for my summer internship this one.
Hello everyone. Hi, this is Pearl Makkar. So I have done my graduation in Electronics Instrumentation Control from YMCA. Apart from that, I have a work experience of 31 months at Escorts Limited, and I'll be joining McKinsey & Co. in my summer internship.
So we have planned this session in few sections. So first, we'll be handling SOP, like the prime and important thing, the thing where you're confused and most of you will be in a bit rushed to complete your SOPs now. So first we'll be handling the SOP session, and going forward we'll deal with GD, PI and all other things. So talking about SOP, the first thing is that you must know what to write and what not to write. You are going to pen down your whole story, like from 20 to 25 years, you are going to tell your story. So before writing your SOP, like in 700 words or 500 words, as per like the requirements of different institutes, first write down the points. What do you think you have achieved? What do you think were the turning points in your life? What do you think are important to you? What are your values that are so dear to you? So write it down, then churn out the most important point that you feel like it should be there in my SOP. That is who I am, and this is what I want to present to a recruiter or a college whom I want to apply for. So writing down all the points and just cutting out what you don't want and dividing what you want and what you don't want, that is the first task. Then there are like thousands of SOPs coming, literally. You all would have got like many calls, and first of all, congratulations for getting those calls and cracking CAT 2021. So try to make it unique. Tell your story, have a storyline, connect the incidents, have a proper structure. It shouldn't be vague, and the interviewer shouldn't feel like, at the end of the day, SOP is something that everyone in the panel will have, and that is their prime source for knowing about you. I think I'm audible, right, guys?
Yes, Ashwati.
So, yeah. Sure. Okay, I'll go ahead. So be coherent and don't contradict yourself. Don't appear vague. I think Pearl can take it forward.
Thing is, Ashwati, you actually pointed out very well the coherence. So while we are telling a story, so we have to make sure that the reader does not get carried away by just the storyline itself, but he also finds out the sincerity, the attributes that you would want yourself to be associated with. So because whenever you will be walking through your interviews, the SOP, after like this is just before even if you enter the interview room, so they'll be already going through that, and this will give them a basic highlights of your life. So you would always want your highlights to represent what ideas, what ethical or moral values you want to hold upon. So always be coherent in that scenario. And also when we talk about writing these SOPs, so don't just focus, don't just start writing everything that has ever happened in your life. Just be precise, like as Ashwati pointed out. It's better to create 2-3 lists of your achievements, of your highlights of your lives. So the first list may be comprising of 15 to 20 attributes, that you believe that were the highlights of your life. And then gradually, when you will start boiling it down, it'll just end up to, let's say, 4 or 5. So this is the power play that you have to make sure that your SOP actually enhances those 4 to 5 attributes and make you the hero of your story. So yeah, Adarsh, you can chip in.
Yeah, so Both of them have covered most of the points regarding an SOP. I would like to add on to what Pearl said, that don't write everything that has happened in your life. You all must have lived 20 years of long life, but write the moments that define you. An SOP is basically a question of who you are, and you have to present it in a 500 word as to make the reader interested in you. There are like thousands of SOPs coming in. If you don't write something unique, if you don't write something that is personal to you, some experience of yours that makes you who you are, that SOP is just gonna end up in the pile of rejections. So make sure to make it personal and make it in a story format that makes it interesting to read. Apart from that, I don't think I have any other points. Pranay, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, just one thing. People would be writing a lot of SOPs now. They would be writing one for IIMB, they would be writing one for IMC, but they might be of the assumption that we are using this for some other college. Let's use the same thing here. Why write something new? Why put in that effort? But you need to understand the basic fact that for SOPs, every college expects something from it. What IIMB expects from your SIP wouldn't be the same as IIM Shillong or IIM Calcutta. So first of all, know what the college is expecting from you in your SOP, and make sure you're going down more on those points than a general SOP. So if you come to your IIMB SOP, B expects more of a what are your achievements in your life? What did you do, and what is your motivation for coming to our college? Whereas an IIM Shillong SOP requires more of your story. How have you progressed as an individual, and what defines you as an individual and separates you and makes you unique from the rest of the applicants? So make sure that you are addressing the points that the college is looking for. That's the major thing here.
I'd also like to add in some points. Yes, like Pranay told, try to align your values to the values of the institute you are applying to. For example, IIM Shillong, we consider sustainability as the core of our institute. It is very close to our heart. So try to align your values to the values. Then do peer reviews. Try to send your SOPs to seniors or alumni from IIMs, and please make sure that there is no grammatical errors in the SOP, because that is the last thing you have to do while writing an SOP. So review it and check for grammar mistakes, and make it a unique story of your own.
Yeah, even for that matter, like when we're talking about, let's say, sustainability, like if you haven't done so far anything in sustainability, don't just start keep on lying on, because that will create even more, that will make more damages than any, earn any pointers for you. So whatever you have to write, just be authentic in whatever you want to convey. So even like when we're talking about the aligning yourself with the missions or the visions of the organization, you have to deep dive in your life cycle of, where you feel that, this happened in your with you, and then you have to pick onto that, because just imitating those vision lines and those mission lines will not actually fetch you any as such pointers. So this is what I want to say about. Okay.
I think we have discussed enough about the SOP, and we have given the viewers a thought to think about. We can move ahead to the next section. Pranay, would you like to take that up?
Yeah, sure. So next thing we have planned out is GD. So we have come to know that this year there is a GD for IIM Shillong. So for GDs, most people, I'm assuming that most people don't have a really good experience with GDs, because a lot of B schools have done away with GD this time. Even last year, we had very few colleges that had GD in their admission process. So the good thing is you just need to qualify the GD as per the documents you have received. It doesn't count in your final score for admission, but you need to qualify the GD. So the basic thing with GDs is make sure you're ready to talk in the GD. So be thorough with your current affairs, or whatever is going to come up in the GD. You should not be caught on a surprise. Be ready to tackle whatever is coming at your way. If you have something with you about the topic, try to start the GD. Starting the GD is a very good way of taking up a GD, first of all. So if you have very good point, or you have some points that you think are relevant to the issue that you have been given in your GD, make sure you're starting it. And it's also necessary that when you don't really have any information, don't start the GD. That would be your first negative point also.
Yeah.
So make sure you wait until a couple of the participants have gone through it, and then by the time you could start to understand how the GD is progressing, and then you can chip in with your points. And if you are clueless about the topic, you can the best way for you to do is summarize at the end. Every GD needs a summary at the end. You may be even picked by the panelist who's overseeing the GD, or else you can take the chance and go summarize the GD at the end. Others, what next?
Yeah, great points, Pranay. The point that Pranay mentioned, that if you don't know the topic well enough, don't start the GD. Adding on to that point, if you don't know about the topic, there are always fellow participants who know about the topic. If it's a kind of a motion, then there will be people who will speak for the motion and against the motion. You can just wait for 2 or 3 participants to put forward their points, listen to them, and then make a conclusion or make your points. If you're not starting the GD, that doesn't mean you'll not get the points. If you speak in between and you present your points clearly, there's a very good chance that you'll be selected for the next round. Also, one important thing that scare many students in GD round is abstract topics. So we have all faced those topics, random topics, the color red, the sky. So it will be any abstract topic that doesn't necessarily have a fixed kind of answer. You can say anything about that topic. So for abstract topics, I would like to say, don't focus on the topic too much. Just let your thoughts flow. If when you see the sky, you're reminded of the ocean, you're reminded of the color, you're reminded of the limitlessness, you can speak about those things. There's never a right answer with an abstract topic. You can just let your thoughts flow, and you can present your thoughts in a very good manner. Your presentation skills and your speaking skills will matter a lot there. So don't focus on the topic too much when it's an abstract topic. Just speak something.
I think I'll just continue over what others said. So speaking is definitely very important in the GD. And this also reminds me the timing of your speech, because there will be time when the GD will actually be going nowhere. The whole, it will be a lot of ruckus created in the panel. So at that time, you have to be smart enough to as such understand where the other person, let's say, starts stammering. So this is the point where you chip in, not the point when the person is already very loud or very high in his opinions. So you have to make sure that you are chipping in the right at the right time. And like already Adarsh and Pranay has already talked about, like if you are not if you don't know the topic, then please don't make a fool of yourself by starting off the GD. You just have to wait. You will be able to understand what the topic is about, and you will be able to as such gather some you can say some your personal opinions to as such drive the GD as well. And this also reminds me that in the GD, you never actually point out the other person. You never say, okay, that this Adarsh has said so and so point and I totally disagree with, or you don't have to convey very strong opinions at that time. So you just have to be on a softer note. And the GD is not just about communication, but it is also about how much you respect your panel, your other co-panelists. Okay, so you have to be very you have to portray those attributes of respect. And then also when we talk about the GD, the third point that I wanted to discuss was about how you prepare. Like abstract topics, already Adarsh has had already mentioned about. So when we talk about the general awareness topics, so there, like some people I have realized that they start throwing up numbers, and what happens is that the panel actually start discussing over they start verifying, and they start questioning the validity of those numbers, which is actually not right, because you are not here to discuss you're not here to actually fact check. Rather, you are here to understand what others' opinion is and what your opinion is. And the fourth point is that please realize that this opinion that other person has is portraying is not something that he has just, dwelt over in just 10 seconds or just 5 minutes before. This is a thinking process that the other person has developed over years. So you definitely cannot convince him or her that, your point, your opinion is the most important point. You just at max can be receptive of what the other person is saying, and you can try to just bring that the person onto a neutral ground. So I think this is what I wanted to chip in. Ashwati, you can take it forward.
Yeah, I guess Pearl, Pranay, and others have covered like almost all points. The thing about GD, to summarize it in a one-liner, is that think, speak, listen, give respect to your opponents, uh, follow the basic etiquettes that these people mentioned. GD isn't very tough. Like, you will, if even if you don't know anything, you will learn something and you can speak out something. Don't be nervous. What they check during the GD rounds mainly is that, do you have an opinion? Can you put it forward? And do you stand by your opinion? So yeah, I guess that's it about GD.
Ashwati,
And we, yeah.
before moving forward, just one comment. Just because Ashwati said that there are opponents, don't start a fight in a GD. Always remember, never fight in a GD.
Yeah, GD is not a platform to fight. It's like you discuss and you come to a conclusion, a common conclusion. So respect your fellow participants. I must rephrase it, I guess. We have few questions in our chat, and yeah, okay. So questions regarding IMS, PI, and how to explain drop year in interview. Yeah, our next session is about PI only. So we'll be covering all these topics in that section. I think if there are no any other questions, we can go to the next section, right? I think Pearl can start with PI. Yeah. Pearl.
All right. So when we talk about PI, the most crucial part of it, it's rather the make or break part. So when you just start, even introduction, let's just start with introduction itself. So introduction is normally regarded to be most important point because it is the first impression that you are going to portray about yourself to the interviewers. So normally it is recommended that it should be around 30 to 40 seconds. And I don't know why, people just go across the two extreme spectrum while preparing for the introduction. The first one, they have memorized their introduction so well that it feels that they are not being, that they are being like a robotic person. Okay. So this is a very different, a very extreme part of your introduction. And the other one is the people actually come so much unprepared that all they do is stammering, and the other person has to actually get the cues of what the other person is trying to say. So what happens is, in both the extremes, if you consider it from the point of view of the interviewer, so the person is actually paying more attention, which that person will definitely not actually admire, because you are not the only person who he or she will be interviewing, but he or she wants to make his task the easiest of the sorts. So you have to make sure that there is some sort of, maybe a subtle sense of humor that if you're very good at, only if you're very good at it. I'm clearly specifying it over there.
And I'd like to add in, please read the room before becoming humorous. If it's a stress interview and you try to be humorous,
Yeah.
no, that's a big no.
Definitely over that point. And yeah, definitely. And most of the time the interviewers, especially the faculty interviewers, they're actually very much accommodating. They make sure that you are first of all at ease. So pick those cues. They are very, very important. That will actually tell you what kind of candidature they are actually looking into. So next, so coming point to the introduction itself. So like I remember while I used to prepare for my interviews, so the chronology is also very important. Like, are you starting from your schooling, then college, then your job, and or some extracurriculars, or you are doing the other way around? So whichever way it is comfortable, just make sure that a chronological order is easy to follow, because the other person is just getting 30-40 seconds to understand what you're trying to convey. So make his or her life the easiest as much as you can. And the next point okay, so interviews, apart from this, you also have to focus upon that, the points that you're mentioning, of the highlights that you're conveying in your introductory statement, they all have to be as such connected. They have to be well versed with. like they have to depict certain attributes, maybe let's say of the sincerity, or you can say talk about the confidence. So whatever attributes that you want to convey, make sure that the highlights that you're picking up from your life, they portray such kind of features. So yes, now you can continue, please.
Yeah, sure. So about the intro part, so one of the things that most people does is just write down the intro that they are gonna go for and by heart it. So that has a problem in itself. So when you go for your interview and you have by hearted your intro for like a lot of times, you would get stuck if you miss a point, or else it would look monotonous to the interviewer. They would think that you are just reading it out of a screen, which is a big no-no. So make sure you're just noting down the points around which you're gonna frame your answer. Keep your points on your side, or keep them like keep a note of them. And for every interview which you're gonna go, the intro is gonna be something that doesn't change much. So for every interview, you would have a set thing that you're gonna start with. So make sure you're framing your intro around those lines that you have prepared, not the complete set that you have by hearted. So that would go a long way in helping in your interviews.
Yeah, I'd like to take up. So during your introduction, you don't have to actually mention the scores you scored and all those things, your 10 standard, 12 standard marks and all, because all those things are already given in your pre-interview form. For me, I have no formal work experience. So introduction is something which sets the direction or tone of the interview. So I always try to make it a point that I include my experience as a volunteer in an NGO, and I was a debater. So I try to include all those points so that I can drive my interview towards the direction which I want and my strong points. So try to include those points where you're strong at, which you want the interviewer to pick up and ask further questions about. And I think you can actually prepare a long as well as a short introduction, because at instances there are, like in some of the interviews I have experienced that some interviewers ask you to give your introduction and then wait, they won't ask you anything, so you might have to take it forward for a while. So at that point you shouldn't stammer and you shouldn't go for preparing at that moment. You just should have a short and long introduction at hand. Yeah, Addy, you can take it forward.
Before Adi, you take it. I think one question, Ashwati, it is just, I think you'll be better able to answer. There is this question which is about what kind of questions should a fresher expect, and how much do we need to brush up on academics?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I was coming to that point only. So as freshers, since we don't have any work experience, most of the questions will be based on your academics. I was from economics background and the interview was around the time of budget. So I had a lot of questions from budget. So be prepared with some of the topics from your undergrad subject, and at least make sure that you know at least one or two topics very well. In my case, my strong point was macroeconomics. So whenever at times interviewers ask, do you have any strong area? Do you want me to ask questions from some area? So you can actually mention this is my strong area. So please make sure that you know what you have studied, because that last 4 years you have spent in college, it shouldn't be a waste, right? So brush up your academics. And as I told you, try to drive the interview towards the direction where you're strong at. I thought that always my NGO experience was my strong point, so I tried to drive it towards that direction. And even when you have a background, like I took PCMB in 12th and then I took economics. So I had questions from physics, chemistry, biology as well in my interview. So they can ask from anything. Be sure that you know what you have learned, and you don't have to go deep about all the equations, graphs, everything, but know something from the topic. Yeah.
Yeah, so regarding the introductions, I think much has been said already, and there's a lot more to PI than just the introduction. So I think I'll just move a step forward, and we'll start tackling what kind of questions people face in an interview. So there's a question in the chat that if I'm 42 months of work-ex, can I expect some academic questions, or will it be more revolving around my work-ex? So first of all, when people with a work-ex background come in, The work ex part takes precedence. I face that in all my interviews, that people are more focused on the work experience that I've done, because that has shaped me better as an individual than my academics. My academic has taught me whatever I've been taught, but after that, there are a lot more points that can be asked in the work experience. What I would suggest for anyone with a work experience to do is make stories around your work experience. If you want to convey that you're a hard worker, don't just say that you're a hard worker. Convey it through a story, that once I was in a project and I was assigned this work and I additionally did this work. So it doesn't seem that you're just stating it for the interview. It should seem like it's you, like you own that up. So make stories around your abilities. And for non-work-ex people, Ashwati has summed up. Pearl, would you like to add on to something that?
So work for WorkX, the thing is like many people have like for me, my work experience was in R&D, so it was remotely connected to management. So this is the point, this is the opportunity that you have to build upon yourself, that your work experience, even though it is remotely connected to management, but you have to make sure that the other person is able to understand the influence, the aspirations that you have come with because of your work experience. So for example, I never used to get into the technical jargons or know-how of what my project was exactly, but I always made sure that I am the as we had initially also portrayed, that I am the so-called hero of my story. So I definitely made sure that my work experience projects, wherever the points when I had taken any sorts of initiative in terms of the management or whatever or dealing with the timelines or the scheduling, everything for that matter. So this is how my work experience story used to be always aligned with. So this is I think the best way to tackle the work experience. And also again, you have to play it very smart. Understand this is your MBA interview and not your MTech interview. So if you are coming from a like BTech background also, and they are asking you about, let's say, BTech hardcore questions, so make sure that you are going a step further. And if you are not comfortable with the technical jargons and everything, make sure after one or two questions, you are redirecting your interview towards the areas where you are actually comfortable with. Yeah,
Wonderful word that you've used there, Pearl, redirecting. So many students they have personally asked me that how do you direct an interview somewhere? So one point that Ashwati and Pearl made, that from the introduction itself, you start to set the tone of the interview. Second thing that Pearl has mentioned, that when you answer any question, make sure to shift the question towards the kind of interview that you want to have. If I was asked a very technical question, I would answer it with the technical jargons that I know, but I would add my own management flavor to that. It's not necessary that you know the management jargons as well. You just have to redirect the interview to that side and make the interview your own. The ball should be in your court, not in the interviewer's court. One more thing, there's also a question in the chat that how do you explain the gap year that you have? So people with WorkX, people with no WorkX, and people with gap. That's the third category that we're going to address. So I'll go ahead with a simple answer. Don't say that I did nothing in that gap year. You can always do something in that gap year. Learn a new language, do a course, do NGO work, do anything. Basically, it should not look like that you wasted a whole year or whatever the time the gap was. So do something in that gap year. If you have not done something yet, start something else, so that you have something to showcase that you have not wasted your time. That will create a negative impact of your personality if you have not done anything. But if you do something, maybe anything like academic, non-academic, sports, it will show that you don't waste time. The time that you were not investing in studies, you were investing somewhere else, and you were gaining a new skill, pursuing your hobby, or doing something else. So that is my way of handling a gap year question.
I think
Exactly. Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
I was just reminded of this gap year question. I was just reminded of even there are like certain times when you are asked about the drops in your marks also. So now this is a very difficult situation, especially for us engineers. Okay, we have a lot of drops, highs and lows. Most of the time lows only, but still. So the thing is, at that time it becomes very pertinent, how you answer that. So I remember I was asked for one of my subjects, and my way of answering was that during that time, I decided that I just don't want to stick myself or confine myself to just the academics, but I want to explore my extracurriculars. And then I went on to, and then again, this is what Adarsh was, even talking about how you redirected. So basically, it was a failure on my CV, if you say it that way. But then I started off by saying that, basically I started, exploring myself in extracurriculars. And then I talked about that how this actually helped me in achieving one of my POR, the position of responsibility that I upheld in my college. So now this is how you convert your failure story into a heroic story. So this is the art that you have to practice a lot. And yeah, Pranay, would you like to just add on to it?
Yeah, so there are a couple of questions that I would like to take up. One is, are there any unique questions that you might get in an IIM Shillong PI and anything specific? So unique questions meaning, I don't think there is anything unique they would ask, but the things that you have prepared, be sure you are ready with them. One thing that I would say was unique for me in my Shillong interview was I come from a fringe background. So there aren't many doctor of pharmacy graduates who are writing CAT and sitting for interviews. So most of my interviews were around why I am moving from that background to MBA. So there would be a few guys like me who have done something different in your undergrad than an engineering and are trying to move into the field of management. So you can expect questions on that. And Shillong interview was the only interview where I was asked questions from my academic background. No other interview was I was asked about anything regarding what I studied in my undergrad. But in Shillong, they did ask me something regarding that. They asked me regarding the vaccines, how are they made, and some questions related to that. So make sure, and there is also a question regarding that. So if you don't know any question about your academic question, how do you answer it? My sincere request, say that you don't know it. Don't try to fake it. The people in front of you are people who have seen a lot of people like you. They know the answer to the question and only ask when they know the answer to the question. So if you're trying to just fake it till you make it, you're not going to make it, brother.
Yeah,
Something like
on that line, if they are asking about your opinion or something, if you think that you can answer, take some time, take a breath and think and answer. But if it's some like an equation or some very fact-based question, don't try to bluff. Tell that I don't know, I'll look it up later. I'll make sure that I will check it, or I can't recall it now, something like that. Don't bluff it. And adding to what Pranay said and Paul said, so the thing is that you have to twist it. When you are asked about your gap year, tell that what did you do during that time. Especially during this COVID times, many people would have got a gap year or something. Especially, I did my undergrads in 2020 and I appeared for CAT 2020, so I had a gap of like few months. So at that time, I told that I volunteered with these organizations for COVID patients and all. So all those things, actually you're turning it into your strengths. So try doing something like that. Or you can tell that you explored some courses about management. There are like plenty of courses available on Coursera, Udemy. Even Google is providing some courses. So try to go through that. So it will also help you to understand more about what you're going to step into about MBA, the subjects, and it will actually make sure that the interviewers will also feel like, okay, you are someone who keeps yourself engaged and don't waste your time, and you're actually interested about management. Yes.
one more question that pops up a lot is about hobbies. Like you just add them at the end, thinking that this is something that would save me. But believe me, it could be the reason why you tanked your entire interview. So don't put hobbies that you really don't know anything about. You need not faff about your hobbies. Be truthful about them. Only put something that you really do. Just mention that if you like cricket, mention that you like cricket and watch it or play it. But don't just put it there that I like sports. Sports include a lot of things and you might be asked a lot of things on that. So be particular about your hobby and make sure you're only putting something you know, because you might have heard a lot of reviews by now that someone who put up a hobby would be bombarded with questions about that hobby. So unless you're not sure about it, don't do that. And there's
Actually,
also yeah.
yeah,
Ashwati, go ahead.
Pranay, go ahead. Okay, so most of you like me in this situation, I was also very confused. What hobby? I didn't think that I had a hobby. If you don't have one, try to create one. If you're gonna write reading as your hobby, please make sure that at least you read 1 to 2 to 3 books in this month, and be ready to talk about a few like famous or classic books and your last read or something. Don't write reading as your hobby and just talk about Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. No hate towards Harry Potter fans. I'm myself as a Potterhead, but the thing is that be sure that whatever you are writing, uh, do some work upon it. And like in my case, one of my hobbies I wrote was cooking, and I actually learned some recipes. In worst case, if they ask me the recipes of some dishes I have cooked, I should be ready to tell that. So be ready with whatever you have written and try to back it up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is a very
Ashwati.
good point, Ashwati.
Yeah, there is a question here that would relate to that. Someone was asking, can you mention any silly hobbies like crafting or maybe playing flute? There are no silly hobbies. A hobby is something that you interest yourself in.
Yes, there is no
And
silly hobby, and people
so,
won't judge you on the basis of your
Yeah,
hobbies.
they may
Yeah,
ask you to play the flute in the interview. There are
yeah.
people in my class who have sung and danced in their interviews.
Yeah,
So
I too also sang.
if you
Yeah,
are
so
so
mentioning it, make sure you know how to do it.
don't bluff it as
yeah,
well.
just to add to that point, whoever has asked this question, and I have been asked to play flute in one of the interviews, and I have did that. So it's not a silly hobby if you are doing it and you know how to do it. Just make sure that you know the in and outs of everything. I will just tell you one instance from one of my interviews. He read my hobby was playing flute, and he asked me, okay, just explain to me the origin of the flute, right from Lord Krishna to the present era. So I had to like, I knew some things, I told them, I added few points of my own and my own journey. So make sure that you know everything about your hobby, everything that you have written in your CV, in your SOPs, in your questions, because a question can come from anywhere and you are expected to answer all those questions. So
Like, yeah,
yeah,
I was
good.
just taking one of the questions, a very interesting questions we have received. So one of them was about, how to explain you are already at a senior position. So just wait for how many years and then you'll become managers in your organization. So you see, when such kind of company, when such kind of questions actually are thrown upon to you, you have to go back to the your self introspection time of before again before coming to the interviews. You have to get into that mode where you actually realize that why you are doing MBA. Like some people are doing it for the manager label, some are doing it for better jobs, better prospects, some are doing for the academic purposes. So you have to go back to the where why you actually started off, why you thought of giving the cat exam first of all. So if it is like the one that has been just portrayed this question, so I remember, like I had given several times my cat, and every year my why MBA question actually got the horizon actually got broadened only. Because I remember initially when I started thinking of giving a cat exam in my UG, it used to be for better money only. That was definitely my answer. So thank God I did not receive any interview call at that time. I would have definitely been rejected outrightly. So,
Don't say
but
that answer anywhere for money, please.
definitely not.
Some things are
So
never to be said in an interview.
yes. So, but I remember, over the time, over the years of my work experience, I realized that for me, MBA is more than about the prospects. It is about the kind of knowledge that I'll be receiving from not just about my academics, but the peer to peer learning. It is not just about the label of manager or senior manager that I'm looking forward to, but it is the experience that I'll attain in one of the, these premium colleges. So this was a driving factor for me, that why I wanted to do an MBA. So make sure that whatever you're answering, you actually hold ground onto it. Yeah,
Excellent
Ashwati,
points.
continue.
Yeah, actually, the peer learning experience Pearl explained. In IIM Shillong, we really have a physiotherapist, a doctor, to a rocket scientist from ISRO. So that is the set of diverse background and people you have in your batch, and the learning experience. You have to stress upon the peer learning experience. But when you're writing an SOP or when you're attending an interview for a specific institute, try to, yeah, in case of Shillong, our diversity is also one of it's one of the most diverse crowds. So try to put in all those points while you're answering the questions. So go through the website of the institute for which you're going to give interview, through the LinkedIn profiles of people who are studying there. So you'll get a better idea about how to answer these questions.
Just before we move on from the hobby topic, there's one question in the chat: what to do if you don't have any hobby? So very simple answer to that. Any section, any resume, any form have hundreds of columns to fill your things into. Don't write anything. If you don't have a hobby, don't make it up. Don't just write anything and just get caught in the interview and be thrown out. It's okay to not have an hobby. It's okay if you have time. Start doing something. Start developing an interest towards something. Reading is one of the most common things that people pick up. But make sure that you don't read one book and write. Like, don't read Philosopher's Stone and write, I'm an avid reader. That won't work. Ashwati knows it well. So yeah, so now moving on ahead from the hobby topic, I think there are other.
Adarsh, I'll have
Yeah.
to just stop you in between. There is one pertinent question that we're just missing out. So after that, we'll be just moving to the next segment. So
Sure,
there's a question about, can we talk about something very personal like illness to a very specific cancer journey or something of that sort in the interview? So, if you have reached to that point where you want to talk about it, then you also have to understand that these answers, that these stories, what kind of impact you want to create, because ultimately whatever you say is going to create an impact. So is it something that you want to you want to make sure that that at that time also you were, let's say, multitasking something, or it made you, let's say, emotionally stronger person. So whatever that thing was, be very clear, be very clear in your mind that whatever you are saying is creating a positive impact, or at least connected to your management journey. So this is the answer that I wanted to actually do it right now. Yeah, Adarsh, you were just, could you please continue?
Yeah, sure. So excellent point, Pearl. Excellent questions, guys. Please throw in all the questions that you have in the chat box. We'll try to answer as many as we can. So going ahead from the hobbies and the POR in every section, there's a very particular kind of interviews that everyone is very afraid of. I know I was last year, and those are the stress interviews.
Everyone are already.
Everyone is very afraid of stress interviews, but I feel that like there is a particular mantra to crack the stress interviews. First of all, remember, whenever the interviewer starts to pressure you a lot over some question or start to grill you going into very specifics of a topic, then you are in a stress interview. What to do in a stress interview? Remain your calm. Don't lose your calm. Don't start panicking. It's never expected of you to that you'll give the correct answer to every question. No one has ever given all the answers in an interview. Everybody misses one or two. So it's fine if you miss one or two questions. Don't ruin the interview going ahead just because you missed the question. Stay keep your calm. Keep a very big smile on your face. Interviewers hate that. If they are putting up stress on you, just smile in front of them and try to answer as many questions as you can.
The best weapon in your pocket, guys. Your smile.
So you don't have any other keep calm, stay smiling, and try to answer as many questions as you can. This is not a race, guys. It's a marathon. If there are 20 questions and you answer 10, then also you can be selected, and you can be rejected even after you answer all the 20 questions. It's not just about the answers that you give, but the way you present yourself. So that is very important part. And that is the part that stress interview checks, not your answers, not your facts or figures, your composure, your ability to handle stress, and how you present yourself. Anyone else would like to add any points to that?
I think Adarsh has covered all the points very well. So taking forward about the college now. So IIM Shillong is the one and only IIM in the northeastern states of the country. So while you are going to appear for an IIM Shillong interview, make sure that you know about the northeastern part of the country well. So, and moreover, even when you're going to attend any interviews, make sure that you know the capitals of all states of India and all such trivial matters, because that happens they catch you by surprise, and at times you might not be able to recall it. So just go through all those small matters. It actually matters in the end. And go through the motto, mission, the important happenings of the college, try to link that to your answers. And IIM Shillong is really a good place to be.
Yes, adding on to that, we have been on the college, and someone asked in the chat, is that photo in the background of IIM Shillong? Yes, that is the campus of IIM Shillong, and that is just a small part of the beauty that the city, the whole Northeast is. I've traveled Northeast quite a bit now, and I can say that you will wake up every day in paradise. That is how IIM Shillong is. And that is just about the beauty part. Apart from that, the diverse batch that we have people from people with freshers, from people who have been teaching, from people who have been 8 years of work ex in some industry. So we have all diverse kind of people there. It's an amazing place to be. That's what I want to say.
And one more point I wanted to add, at the end of every interview, you would be given a chance to ask something. Use that space. So those questions, they ask you to understand what you want to know, but you can use that to show your interest on the college. So when you're going for a specific college interview, try to research some things about the college and ask a question pertaining to the things that you have learned about it. So if you are attending IIM Shillong interview, everyone knows that IIM Shillong's mission includes sustainability a lot. IIM Shillong has been a strict follower of sustainable management practices ever since it has been established. So you can ask something regarding that motto. Why sustainability? What do you do to inculcate sustainable practices in your managers that you develop? Something on those lines. So this chance to ask a question is a short way to make sure that the interviewer knows that you're interested in the college and you want to know more about it.
I think I'll just add on to this what Pranay has mentioned. A forewarned rather upon it would be that the questions have to be not only structured but also make sure that you have done proper research. You should not come up with questions that is already being mentioned onto the website or that is available on the public forum. So make sure that anything that you ask, they present an inquisitiveness rather than the lack of research on your part.
It shouldn't be a question for the sake of asking a question. Research it and don't make a fool out of yourself by asking some very random questions. And I think that's it about the college. And let's take up the current affairs session, something nightmare of many people, the current affairs.
Ashwati, before we move on to the current affairs, there's one very interesting question. That
sure.
Interview pattern for every institute is different. So how can we prepare for it? Would you like to take that up?
Yeah, sure. Pattern might be different for different institutes, but the thing is that basically they want to know about you. The initial preparation of your interview starts with knowing about yourself. You have to know about yourself and you have to be prepared to answer questions about yourself. And in general, I have attempted around 8 to 9 interviews, including the CAP ones. So most of the interviews were basically around, since I was a fresher, about my academics. Then, yeah, there were some very interesting questions. I'm from Kerala. So at that time, a movie called Drishyam 2 was very hit, and it was during the time of my IIM Bangalore interview. So they didn't even ask me to give an introduction. The first question they asked me from the first line of my SOP was, my father is a police officer. So the question they asked me was, if you were in the shoes of the police officer in Drishyam movie, how would you think you would have taken up the investigation and what would the new climax be? So I was quite taken by surprise. Like, I didn't expect such a question. So things like that can happen. However, most of the interviews, for example, in IIM, in those interviews, they focus on some kind of academics, 10, 10, 12 more. For IIM Shillong, they want to know who are you as a person. So it might change, the format might change, the interview length might change. But essentially, it's about you, who you are, what you have learned, why are you here? Yes.
Yes, excellent answer, Ashwati. I'll just like to add on, yes, interview pattern for every institute is different. Not even every institute, every interviewer has his own pattern of interviewing you. For a same college, different sets of interviewers have their way of testing the candidate, basically. Some people may ask completely around your work education, work ex, around your education, around your whatever is mentioned in your CV. Some might not even touch your CV and just ask random questions. I have been asked in interviews like, what is the name of airport of various cities of India? I've never even mentioned that airports or planes I have any affiliation to, but yes, I've been asked those questions. And in the different interviews, I've been solely asked out of my CV. So basically, whatever you write anywhere, you should know everything about it. And you should know everything about where you belong to. If you come from a particular state, if you come from South India, then you should know the recent happenings. You should know not just of finance sector or marketing sector. You should know each and everything. You could be asked about a movie, so don't stop watching movies just for the preparation. You should just have a general idea of everything. MBA is not focused on a particular subject. It's all round development for you.
Yeah, and I think this actually brings up to the next segment that we were about to discuss about, was the general awareness. So, and how do you prepare about it? So, see, understand the importance of general awareness is not restricted to some exams, like certain exams only, but it is also as such extends upon to your group discussions, then your even personal interviews, like as Adarsh mentioned, that sometimes airports names, or I remember I was asked port names, so something of that sort. These kind of questions do come up, and sometimes they are just to just take you just say bring you by the surprise. But at times, if you know the answer, it actually adds a lot of value as well, because there might have been a situation, let's say in some international reports, where a port must have got an oil spillage or something of that sort. So sometimes even those stories, if you are aware of it, so it actually creates an impact that you are well versed of the latest happenings around you. And when even you talk about just more than just knowing the facts, it is better to even have an opinion over it, because this is something like, for example, nowadays if you talk about the coronavirus itself, so how much progress the vaccination has actually taken place, that is one part. But the I think more pertinent question would have been, to what extent do you think that vaccination program is being run successfully into the in the country? So now such kind of answers, if you are very well ready of it, so it helps you in your group discussions as well as your interviews, because it gives an impact that you are you are a learned person, that have an opinion of their own, and not just influenced by whatever the newspapers that you're just reading, or only just doing the fact check. So, okay, now Pranay, I think you should take over the next point.
Yeah, so the source of questions during the current affair round can be vast. So you don't have a fixed syllabus that you need to prepare for, but some pointers that you could be using for your safety, that make sure that at least you are answering the current questions are, what are the current happenings? Like for you people, the budget is coming up, so you can expect questions from the budget. So anything that is hot on the market right now would be something that you should know about. Then the places where you come from, about your state, your city, where you reside in, some recent happenings in your state, any elections, or any companies that are setting up new plants there, or any new happenings of your state or your city. Those are something very important. And more importantly, you are attending an MBA interview. So business news is something that you can expect to be asked. Any recent mergers or acquisitions, like the Microsoft Activision deal, that is something that you can expect to come up. And more importantly, when you're answering current affairs questions, they don't want to see if you know it or not. This is an MBA interview. They want to see what is your opinion on it. Do you have an opinion on what is happening? Do you relate what is happening to some uh, belief of yours? So you need to make sense of the news, not just know the news. So that is something that I wanted to stress upon here.
Okay, I'd like to take it up. Yeah, we have a question from Ashwin. How back should we go while preparing for current affairs? Yeah. So what I did was, there are many yearbooks available. So it is kind of, it gives you a brief idea about what and all happened in the last year. So you can refer to any of them. I personally referred Manorama yearbook, and it gave quite a good summary of the events. There are many platforms online as well as offline, so you can choose any. Yeah, having an opinion after reading all those things, it's not about giving out facts. Have an opinion on all those things. And as a person coming from economics and finance background, make sure that for people exclusively, everyone should know about budget. You should have your top 5 priorities, what you liked and what you didn't like, and you should have something to back it up. Like, how are you, if you were in the shoes of a finance minister, how will you tackle it? So all these questions can come up, especially for people from finance background and economics. Make sure that you go thoroughly through the budget and the reviews of budget, articles written upon budget, as well as if you have written that you like to take up finance in future, make sure that you have a look at the stock market indices even during the day of your interview. So have an idea about how the market is going, what are the trends, what are the reasons for the downfall or the everything. So yeah, these are the things you should take care. And people coming from election states, like states where elections are going to happen, make sure that you have an opinion, and why do you think your conclusion, you back it up with evidences and your opinions. Yeah.
Yeah, just adding on to that before we move on to the next question. Ashwati rightly said that like you should keep an eye on the elections, keep an eye out on the news happenings, keep an eye out for mergers and acquisitions and all the places that you come from. Basically, when you go far back, like 2 years back, you should know the major events from all the past 2 years. If there is some major elections coming up, if there are some major change in the financial markets, you should know about how the COVID has changed the scene of the market. Those are the major things that you should know for at least 2 years. Then there are small happenings for the past month that you should know about, and everyday happenings that have been happening for the past week that you should know about. So follow it in a chronological order. As you go more past, the relevance of the event increases that you should know. You should not know that 2 years ago one politician said this in a election or something like that, but you should know that if there was a major election or a major incident that happened.
Yeah, I think, adding on to this itself, even while you're developing your opinions, so you can actually refer to those, on YouTube, there are so many videos where a topic specific videos are actually provided for your analysis. So if not going through, let's say, a 30-minute long video, but just make sure that you go at least 5 to 10 minutes so that you are able to understand how the other person is teaching you to create an opinion of your own for a particular general awareness, topic or question. So I think, Pranay, we can take up a question over here.
Yeah, there's one last question we can take up. It's about if you're passionate about capital markets, can you mention them? And would you be grilled on the technical side of it? You might be grilled, but if you are really interested in it, you can put in. I have a personal example of myself. I did put in interest in capital markets as a hobby when I was attending my interviews. In an interview, I was asked a couple of questions about different definitions of types of financial instruments that are available in the market. They asked about what was my portfolio, what are the recent stocks that I bought or sold, and they also asked about a couple of important news that were hot at that period of time. Why was Vodafone India's stock falling down? What was the reason? What are AGR news? So you might expect questions regarding some happenings in the financial markets for sure. But if you are not completely confident that you can take up the questions, then on a safer note, you can not put it. But if you are okay with answering at least the basic questions, you can go forward with it.
I'd like to take it forward. Adding on to what Pranay said, you can have a look at crypto, NFT, all those things which are like trending right now. And moreover, not just current affairs, it's very important that you know the basics of the subjects which you're gonna study. Like you will definitely, even if you're not coming from a management or BBA or economics background, try to learn a few things, few basic things about management, like a few jargons about marketing, about some financial statements, all those things. Have a basic idea about what you're going to do. That will really help you a lot in your interviews as well as in the future as well.
Yeah, I think Ashwati, you actually pointed out a very important point. Rather, while we are just even looking forward to preparing ourselves in the domains of marketing or let's say finance, so you can actually take up certain courses also which are available online, because this will even add some pointers for your CV also. Because after it, getting into an MBA college is one thing, and getting a summer internship is another. So I think that will be a very good point if you actually able to get some kind of a courses involved into it. And also I remember, like, even I was asked one of this, and I think in Shillong interview only, I was asked actually about, I in my interview itself, I started pointing out that I was doing some finance course at that time. So I actually collaborated that point into my interview, and the interviewer was actually impressed by my efforts. So sometimes, even if you have not completed the whole course, but the efforts portray that you are actually serious towards the job that you are taking up. So I think that can be something that you can work upon.
Yeah, sure. So after that, there's one important question that everybody has, every person, whether he's interviewing for a finance role, marketing role, or just an MBA course. What are the etiquettes of an online interview? So I'll start by taking up that there is a lot of difference when you give an online interview versus an offline interview. In an offline interview, you're actually present in front of the interviewer. You have to have your composure at all times. In an online interview, you are sitting, relaxing in your home environment. So that adds a level of comfort, for me at least, when you are in a familiar environment. You're not sitting in a chair in front of an interviewer. Secondly, only a part of you is visible to the interviewer. You have to make sure that you make yourself as presentable as possible. You have to make sure that you smile at all times. You keep a composure. Don't show the panic that you are. Maybe your legs are shaking, but your face should not show that. So holding your composure and staying calm is very important. Secondly, it's all right to take a little time before answering the questions. It's not that the interviewer has asked a question and you have to rush to answer it. You can always take time. You can ask the interviewer, can I take a minute to answer that? And you'll always get the time. Every interviewer understands that a little bit of time is needed. So take up time, take a huge breath, and just relax and then answer the question. That is how I maintain my composure during an online interview. Ashwati, you want to add some points?
Yeah. Be properly dressed, not just your upper part, just wearing a blazer. Be properly, completely dressed. And even during your mock interviews, try to give your mock interviews in fully formal clothes. It will help you to get acquainted with the process, and have a very neat background and very neat surroundings, and have a cup of water basically by your side to just chill and relax when you are like in panic mode. So all those things are important. And finally, take as much mock interviews as possible. It will really help you. It will improve your performance. And try to contact your seniors. Try to get in touch with people through LinkedIn. They'll help you. They will even take mock interviews for you. All IIM students will be willing. And even IIM Shillong, yeah, I think Adarsh can take that up. Mentorship
Which question?
program. We provide actually
Yeah,
mentorship
mentorship
programs.
Yes. So basically, we provide mentorship programs as soon as the calls are out. The calls are actually out, I know. So in a few weeks, we'd be rolling out the forms for interested participants who are interested in taking a mentorship program. The more details will be shared in later course. So don't hurry for that. Start preparing on yourself, and we'll provide all the support that we can. So there are mentorship programs. Adding to what Ashwati said, that always keep a bottle of water ready. From a technical aspect of it, always check your connections, your video, your audio beforehand. There might be instances when your video, audio, or something is not working, and it might not be your fault. But the interviewer doesn't have time to really wait for you and you fix your audio and then you give the interview. There might be cases where you can reschedule your interview, but it's always best to at least have a sanity check half an hour or 1 hour before the interview. If you don't have anything correct, get it corrected. Get a spare laptop for that interview. Get a just a place where good with good Wi-Fi. Do anything and everything, but don't ever do, like, don't ever just go into the interview unprepared.
Do
Prepare
a
yourself.
speed check. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a backup. Yeah.
Yeah, this actually was, I was able to, recall one of my experiences. So I remember in one of the interviews, my actually network connection that day was so much pathetic that I dropped off 7 to 8 times. But the faculty member was very much, concerned about it, and that person actually did not lose calm. So, this also teaches you a lot many things, that even if sometimes it's not your day, it's in terms of the technicalities, you have to make sure that you're always ready for the worst. So make sure that you are there. And also, even an important point to note over here is the body language, because only certain part of you is being visible onto the screen, and they are going to focus on your face or your hands. So you have to make sure that you actually play an important role with your body language as well. So your points should be actually the points that you want to stress upon at that time. Your body language should depict such kind of things. And as much is important, keeping a water bottle, it's also important to keep a pen and a paper. I remember one of the questions we had been asked in the chat box itself, that can we expect certain logical puzzles or something of that sort. Yes, definitely yes. Okay. And it is, sometimes the interviewer will be actually helping you out also in solving those, and sometimes you'll be just left alone. So either scenarios, you have to be well prepared of the both the situations. So I think after this, do we have anything else to add upon?
I think we are done and we have covered almost everything. And thanks for the questions. Thanks for turning up. Yeah. Anything?
I don't think we have anything more to add on. We have answered as many questions as possible, guys, in the chat. For any more questions, you can just search online. Every question that you have has been answered. People have been asking the same questions year and year again. And trust me, we all had the same doubts. We all had the same fears and nervousness that you guys must be facing. It's all about how much you prepare and how you present yourself on the D-Day. So from our side, I think I'll just go ahead and conclude if no one has anything else to say.
I think one more pointer I just recall, you can also even connect the alumni of the call, of the respective calls that you are getting. So that will be from LinkedIn or any of the other platforms, because that will actually help you understand what they went through and how much it has changed. So I think this was one point that I wanted to add.
We also will be happy to connect with you through LinkedIn. So it's fine. You can drop your questions there as well. So yeah, Shillong is a beautiful place and we are waiting for you guys.
So from all of us at Shillong, all the very best for all your interviews and all your rounds. And we hope to see some of you with us on the campus very soon. With this, we can conclude this session. Thank you, session.
All the best, guys.
All the best.
Interviews.
All the best.